It's the final day of the 36th Bassmaster Classic. Rain has delayed the launch just a bit, and this is something you rarely get to see, the launch live and in person here on ESPN2. There are 25 anglers getting ready to take to Lake Toho here in Kissimmee, Florida. All of them are looking to win that $500,000 first prize. One day after a record-breaking single-day performance with nearly 30 pounds of bass, Luke Clausen cools off a bit, but still leads the Bassmaster Classic going into the final day. He was one of the favorites heading into the Classic, but after a disappointing day one, Florida native Terry Scroggins had the most weight on day two. He's back in contention. And defending Classic champion Kevin Van Dam makes an amazing jump, 34th to 12th. The Tiger Woods of bass fishing is in the hunt and charging. Basscenter welcomes you to Lake Toho, Florida, in Kissimmee, Florida, near the Walt Disney World Complex. The fans, the hardy fans have gathered. The heavy stuff, the heavy rain has come through the area. We are just moments away from sending those 25 anglers out onto the water to go after that first place prize of $500,000.
It's the Super Bowl, and they're delayed. We actually got a little bit of a rain delay here, and how cool is this that we're going to see it right behind us? These guys are getting ready to take off right now. I'm pumped just to watch the boats take off and go fishing.
We're ready. We're ready to hop in a boat and go fishing ourselves
Let's
today.
hitch a ride. I want to hitch a ride with one of the pros right behind me right now. That would be awesome.
Hello, everyone. I'm John Kernan along with Byron Velvick, and this is it, the third and final day of competition. We started out with 51 anglers on Friday. The field has been whittled down to 25, and I'm telling you what, with big bags and the big fish here, it's just about anybody's tournament.
And this weather is going to just shake this whole place up. It's like a crystal ball. You just shake it up, and all of a sudden the weather, this is the first time we've seen weather like this. It could change everything today, John.
What Byron's talking about early this morning, a front came through. We had a lot of rain, some high winds, and that is the low pressure system that's sitting off the Gulf Coast of Florida is going to move through this area. The wind's going to shift, and by this afternoon, it's going to be 20 to 30 miles an hour out of the north.
And right now, you got the guys all waiting patiently to go. You can see them out there just waiting, getting ready to go fishing. Right now, what are they doing? They're having a quick snack, doing a little bit of breakfast. You know, you got to eat. Yeah, Kevin's eating his Lucky Cookies out there. I saw that while you were. I mean,
remember, that's why I picked him to win the Classic last year.
Well, right now, these guys get an extra little bit of time.
I know Kevin's in 12th place. I don't know if he has enough Lucky Cookies to get him as many fish as he needs
today. If they keep delaying him, he's going to have to sell those cookies while he's here.
All right, let's go down and check things at the launch with Trey Reed and Mark Zona. Guys, what's going on down there?
Guys, thanks a bunch. You're definitely right. Kevin Van Dam we've been out here for 2 hours. I think he's eaten about 30 to 40 cookies so far to turn the tide here. Seriously, the weather has gotten awful out here. I feel like Jim Cantori from the Weather Channel right now. We're storm chasing.
Storm chasing. You know, one thing I noticed, Zona, usually you see these anglers, they come out here, they're sort of yawning, stretching, talking to each other. You know what they were doing today? Every single one of them is screwing around with their rods, making the adjustments right now. I mean, this is going to change things up.
I'm going to tell you one thing that's impressive. Look over here. It's raining out, pouring out. We got fishing fans out here. Give up the love. Seriously, right now, the guy, in my opinion, to watch in this tournament, and I'm not really going out on a limb right now, but with the weather that's coming in today, the heavy winds, Terry Scroggins is the guy to watch because he knows the areas to get into when that weather really starts pounding.
Clearly, Terry Scroggins has an advantage here. Also, Preston Clark. These guys are playing in their own backyard.
Definitely.
They know how these Florida fish react to the weather changes. Here's another thing, Zona. It's not just the rain. As soon as this blows out, we're going to have 25 to 30 mile an hour winds, and I think that's going to be an even bigger factor than the rain.
Look at the guy in second place, Ron Shuffield, right there.
Right there he is. Look at that.
Just got done eating breakfast. You got to love it. John and Byron, back to you.
Hey, Zona, go get his autograph. Have him sign your hat. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to mingle with the pros.
Yeah, there you go. Of course, I get to mingle with this pro every weekend.
Oh, jeez. Who's not fishing the Classic and just watching it on the sidelines?
Yeah, but we like having you here because, you know, know, there are certain rules to this game of professional bass fishing, and in particular, the Bassmaster Classic. So let's reacquaint you with some of those. It's a 3-day tournament. Today is day 3, 8 hours of fishing each day, and 51 anglers started out, Byron.
Yeah, but now 26 of these guys are going to be working the boat show today while the other 25 get to fish. So 26 guys are gone. 25 guys are fishing today. That is the cut for Sunday. And then it's a 5-fish limit. You're allowed to catch 5 fish. After that, as you catch more, you start building that weight up, John.
You let the lighter fish go and replace it with the heavier one. And the overall heaviest weight wins the $500,000 first prize. Second prize, not bad, $45,000.
Not bad. It's real bad if you're second.
Well, let's check out the highlights from day 2. And Luke Clausen, he had the Bassmaster Classic record single-day catch on Friday, 29 pounds, 6 ounces. But on Saturday, he went back to the same places and that he did so well the day before. Caught this 6-pounder, third cast of the day, Byron. Then he struggled, though.
You know, but how excited was this guy when he's got almost 30 pounds the first day? You pull up, and on your third cast, this is what you see on the end of your line. You know, to me, I'm thinking this guy has got to be pumped going into it, knowing that he's the guy right now to beat in this year's Classic.
I wasn't really sure what to expect today. I could have seen myself catching 30 pounds today because I went through one area yesterday and caught a few big ones really quick. I went through about 30 yards of a 200-yard section and caught a few big ones really quick. And in practice, I'd gotten bit all down that thing. And I thought the potential was there to catch another 30 pounds today. It didn't turn out that way at all.
Here's Kevin Van Dam, and at one point on Saturday, our Bass Track unofficial scoring had him in 34th place, but then he caught fire, jumped all the way to 12th, Byron.
Oh, this is not what all the other guys want to see. It's Kevin Van Dam going to 12th. I guarantee you there's a bunch of guys that are fishing today that were rooting for this guy not to be in the hunt, and a big move like that with fish like this, that's the key for Kevin. He is eating those lucky cookies we talk about, but at the same time, this guy could be a real threat to win this.
I've got to go for it. You know, I mean, there's a huge difference between first place and second place, and I'm looking at that $500,000 payday.
Preston Clark came into this tournament with a strategy to go sight fishing, basically fishing for bass in shallow water that you can see, but the wind kind of kicked up yesterday.
You know, he had 29 pounds on day 1. Actually, he did not have 29 pounds. He actually went out yesterday and caught them, and he was sight fishing. Now, that's going to change a lot today, John, because today, when you get the wind like this and the rain like this, that water becomes a mirror. It becomes hard to see them.
And how about Edwin Evers? He came into day 2 in 3rd place, but he also found the going tough.
You know, this is really a tough time, and Edwin's going to regret a lot of things we're seeing here, which are missed fish. You know, he's going out there and he's having fish on like this. He needs to put them in the boat, but Edwin is a man that can make changes. This guy, I fish against him. I know him personally. He's the Oklahoma Sooner, and he is good at putting them in the boat when he has to. So,
is that just a matter of the hook not being set firmly in the fish's mouth?
It's just bad luck.
Ish Monroe, a great day 1 with 26 pounds, but an awful time on day 2. Only 7 pounds. He barely made the final day cut to 25. And how about Kevin Worth?
You know, he's 9 pounds out of the lead, and this might have put him in 2nd or 3rd. Oh, you didn't lose the fish to make the run. Oh, Kevin. But you know what? Another guy that has been on the tour for a long time, former Kentucky Derby jockey.
Yeah, he'd like to be a pro golfer, too.
Well, he wants to see himself in the winner's circle here. He's probably going to win this thing with a photo finish if he wins it today. I'm sorry, I'm throwing the horse things out there.
He's in 6th place.
He's in 6th now, but let's watch and see if he can actually pull it off. The Derby winner wins.
Rick Clunn used the spinnerbait on day 2, and it really didn't work out for him as he dropped from 5th place to 18th place, but says he still has a slight chance, I guess you might say.
You know, he does have a slight chance, and that's the thing. It's like this guy is the perennial spinnerbait fisherman. He goes out and look at the fish he catches here on the favorite bait.
This lake you can pull miracles, but that's what it would take for me to come back. You'd have to have a monster bag.
Ron Sheffield is one of only 2 anglers to catch more than 20 pounds of bass on day 2. He later said flat out he's going to win. He says he knows where those big fish are today. But here's the guy everyone needs to watch out for, Terry Scroggins. The heavy favorite coming in because he's a Florida guy, really knows Lake Toho well. Biggest bag all of day 2, 28 pounds, 6 ounces.
I really struggled yesterday. I flipped a lot of heavy cover. Today, I run around the whole lake just like I did yesterday. I hit about 25 spots or so, but I was casting more. I was fishing more isolated cover versus the thick matted cover. And about my 10th or 12th spot, I ran into this area. I caught a 3-pounder and a 5-pounder, and I slowed down. Then I caught a 7-pounder, another 5-pounder, and a 9.5. And I kind of left it alone after a couple of hours, and I really think there's a big bag there for tomorrow.
Yeah, he says he's going after today. Here's a look at the top 10, some notables on the right-hand side. And Luke Clausen's, I've just been impressed. He's led this thing since day one. He's trying to become the 7th angler to lead a classic and win it wire to wire. And Kevin Van Dam in 12th, Rick Clunn in 18th, Gerald Swindle, the G-Man, in there in 19th. Let's quickly go back down to the launch area where Mark Zona, Trey Reeder standing by. Guys?
Thanks a bunch, guys. They're just getting ready to go out. We're panned in on Greg Hackney right there. The biggest thing right now that we have found out from most of the pros in the top 10, the best way to put it, they are calling an audible. Most of them are changing their game plan that has got them past the first 2 days. They're completely changing. Kevin Van Dam said he's going to brand new water today, throwing giant baits, totally changing what's been going on.
They've got to change, Mark, because, you know, we've seen changes every day of this event. And what happens on day 3, the last day of the Bassmaster Classic, when you don't want things to change, you should have everything figured out. You should be zoned in, tuned in, fine-tuned as much as you can be. That's not going to happen today.
Trey, we're changing. I feel like a little wet possum out here right now. John and Byron, back to you guys.
He kind of looks like a little wet possum out there, doesn't he?
I think he's cute.
Of course, we have more reporters out on the water. Robbie Floyd, Kim Bain, Mark May are all going to be out there. We're going to be going to them throughout this program to check in on live action to see what the anglers are up to, see who maybe has caught the first bass of the day. And it could be Terry Scroggins, the favorite coming in here, and he turned it on Saturday.
Turned it on, and you know, we're talking about this guy being the favorite, and there's a real good reason why everybody's talking about Scroggins right now. This guy lives here. He's a hometown favorite, and this is where there's a change coming. The weather is changing. A lot of these guys don't live here, and this lake is going to fish a little bit differently today than it has before because of the weather. But let's take a look at where Terry's been going. A key here is where he's been fishing, and the thing is, he's running down, way down, going to the end of all the lakes. He goes through all the lakes to the very end, which is Kissimmee, far back eastern corner, and this is where he's been catching his fish. He went all the way down there, fished around there. Today the wind could hurt him if he has a north wind blowing in down there. That's going to be the question. When he gets there, will he be able to fish this spot again? Because when the wind blows into your area, it churns up all that water, John. You start churning up all that water, the water gets stained. These fish don't like dirty water in Florida, and they want it to be clear, and a wind blowing into your area decimates your area. You got to turn around and move somewhere else. But Scroggins is so good at that change. He's the kind of guy that can go out and make things happen because he lives here, hometown favorite, and the change could win him this Bassmaster Classic.
So now, Byron, we're on the north side of Lake Toho, the northern end of the playing field, as we look at all the fans who have turned out in this rain to watch the launch. I mean, just you got to give them some props for that. But could we see a lot of the anglers, if the wind shifts as predicted to come out of the north and northeast, could they shift up here where we are?
These guys right here are going to have to make some changes, and that's exactly right. They're going to have to shift, and they're going to be out in a situation where as the wind changes and the areas they were used to fishing get wiped out, big waves and everything else, you got to turn around and change with it. Scroggins is the man to do that because he's got good spots all over all these lakes, John.
Yeah, and he might just break the classic curse because remember, no angler has won a classic when it was held in their home state.
And this is as good as it gets right now because he has got to be the favorite. This weigh-in could be a historical event.
Oh, it could very well be. Well, we still have a whole lot to talk about here on Basscenter Live from the 36th Bassmaster Classic. And when we come back, a view you rarely see in bass fishing. We're going to take you under the water to see what's really going on under there. So stick around for that.
Basscenter is brought to you by Mercury Marine. Mercury, #1 on the water.
27 pounds! First man ever from the Federation.
In 2004, a Japanese angler named Takahiro Omori achieved the American dream by becoming the first foreign champion of professional bass fishing. In 1992, Omori moved to the United States to chase his dream of being a pro angler. 12 years later, he reached the pinnacle of the sport.
And this guy stuck it out, dude. He sacrificed, and he sacrificed. And he comes to the classic. He dreamed it, he planned it, and he won it.
He did it with one of the most clutch performances in classic history. Omori caught his two biggest fish with less than 5 minutes remaining and had to race back to the ramp for check-in. Takahiro Omori's win was much bigger than a dream come true. It was the beginning of a new international era.
Just a couple of years ago, Lake Wiley, my home lake, but here at Lake Toho, the fans are sticking around, even though the weather is just, not really cooperating for today. A little light rain falling right now. We've got some high winds predicted to be coming to the area. And
these are some dedicated fans. And I love this because they want to see their pros start the day.
Yeah, and I'm sure you got some Luke Clausen fans out there currently in the lead after day 2. 44 pounds, 5 ounces, and a little bit over 5-pound lead over Ron Sheffield, or a little bit under 5 pounds over Ron Sheffield. And Byron, I'm telling you what, this thing is shaping up with the weather and the changes that these guys are going to have to make. It could be a slugfest today.
Oh, you know what? You can see this whole leaderboard just change and rotate and go topsy-turvy because guys are going to have to change all their game plans. And just like Zona said, you have to call the audible and start all over again.
Well, they just finished sending the 25 anglers who are competing for that $500,000 first prize out onto the water. Almost 8 hours of fishing to determine the champion. And, of course, we have reporters out on the water, and we're going to check in now to see what's going on in the early stages of the final day of the Bassmaster Classic. Here's Kim Bang. Kim?
Hey, John. Yep, I'm out on the water, and I've just watched the top 25 take off for the final day of the Classic, and they are pumped up. Now, the weather's not the best out here. It's windy, it's rainy, and for me, it's not very enjoyable, but they're ready to go. They're changing their patterns, they're changing their locations, and they're sure that the fish are going to bite. They're pumped up. It's exciting. I can't wait to see what happens today. Mark, Zona, what's happening with you?
Well, Kim, you're exactly right. They are changing their patterns. Earlier in the week, one of the biggest patterns here that guys were planning on blowing this thing out was sight fishing, locating bass that are on nests, visibly looking at them, then catching them. Basically like a batter knowing a fastball's coming at him. He's just got to hit it. Same thing, they just got to catch it. But we explain it a little bit better right here.
One of the things that's definitely going to go on in this tournament is sight fishing. What is sight fishing? Well, it's getting back in these grass fields and finding fish that are reproducing. The males and females will make basically a dish. They'll sit on this nest for about 2 or 3 days when the water temp gets between about 60 and 65 degrees, and a lot of guys use real bright lures to catch these things. What this fish is doing, it's sitting there circling the nest and protecting its eggs. So basically, if anything comes by it, whether it be a lure, a bluegill, a little bait fish, he's gonna crunch on it. But a lot of times when you're sight fishing for these fish, you kind of got to aggravate them, and they bite out of anger. They don't bite out of hunger. It's more of an anger bite. She's on it. There she goes. Put it right on the bait. Boom. That right there is exactly what I was talking about. You'll put it onto that spawning bed, right where he's sitting. Bang, right in the mouth. 2-pounder. There is about 1,000 of these right now in this North Bay spawning right now. Definitely going to play a factor in this tournament, sight fishing.
Now, John, the biggest problem with it is the thing that hampers it the most, like I said, is clouds and wind. Sight fishing basically had all the holes blown in it this morning. Back to you.
Hey, Zona, I noticed some underwater footage on that tip that you did right there. I have to ask you, did you put on the scuba gear, take the camera underwater yourself?
No, I kind of stay on land. I don't go underwater. We actually got that footage from a guy named Kim Stricker Productions. Guy does great work. He lives under the water with the fish, I guess.
Oh, man, that's just some incredible looking stuff.
Now, I'll tell you, we got some footage basically where we got a smallmouth grabbing a bait here, okay? Just kind of hanging out of nowhere. Keep your eyes here. And what's going to happen here? Keep your eye on a smallmouth, and out of nowhere, just keep your eye on it.
I'm watching it.
Just stay there, John. Don't bang! and I can tell you, this footage was not in this tournament. I just thought it was kind of cool this morning to show it more than anything.
He likes to show smallmouth getting eaten by largemouth. I guess that's what we're seeing there. A largemouth bass attacking a smallmouth bass. And Zona's freaking out on us.
This is a total non sequitur. It has nothing to do with this tournament other than it's cool.
Hey, sometimes you got to do that. We're here to entertain and educate.
Exactly. How to, where to, when to.
No more coffee for Zona. He's been hitting it. I mean, he's on his 5th cup of coffee.
I'm a little tweaked out right now.
See that, Z? Get off the caffeine, bro.
I'm all checked up.
Oh, man, the anglers launched just a little bit ago. The fans are still sticking around. They're having a great time as we're here at Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida. The final day of the 36th Bassmaster Classic, and back to the education part of it.
Oh.
The keys to sight fishing.
Well, right off the bat, John, you want to practice catch and release. This is a critical time when these fish are spawning, and so you want to let these fish go. If you go out there and you start using the techniques you're seeing here, at least let the fish go, because they're trying to procreate and spawn and whatnot. But key element there that I want to point out is if you're in a tournament and you decide to sight fish, try culling with your eyes. And what I mean by culling is look for the bigger fish. Culling is a method of going out and finding the bigger fish and ignoring the little fish, or just letting the little fish not be a part of your game plan. So what you do in a sight fishing tournament, you want to drive around and ignore the 2-pounders, maybe the 3-pounders on the beds that are up there shallow and you can see them, because you know you need to catch bigger fish. That's the key to sight fishing, is not just going out catching everything you can see, but knowing what you need to win in a tournament. And that's the key here. A lot of these guys have that trolling motor on high, John, and they are going down the bank looking for the big ones. At least they were before the wind showed up, looking for those big ones. And then when they catch those big ones, they catch a 20-pound, 30-pound bag of fish without catching all the little ones that waste their time.
Well, this guy, you know, I embarrassed him yesterday by talking about the Rick Clunn phone call that Rick Clunn, one of the greatest fishermen, or the greatest angler of all time, asked for some advice on sight fishing. Byron set the 3-day record, Clear Lake out west, and a little over 80, almost 84 pounds of fish in 3 days.
They were snapping.
So
that
you're
was
an
a
expert.
great tournament. Well, I've been sight fishing since I was 16 years old. That was my forte. I won most of the money out west sight fishing, and that, before everybody else was doing it, that was my game. Now everybody's a sight fisher. It makes me sick. I don't want anybody to do that. I liked it when it was my game, not everybody else's game.
Well, maybe we'll see Byron after this year's Elite Series qualify for the Classic, and maybe he'll get a chance to go sight fishing in the Classic next year.
all year long, John. I'll sight fish in September.
What about your swim baits? Normally you have those big, you know, look like fish. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about those. That secret hasn't gotten out yet.
We are having a great time here in Kissimmee, Florida, and after the break, you know, we heard Kevin Van Dam say earlier that he was going to go for it. Well, how do you go for it in pro fishing, and how much will it take for Van Dam to win his 2nd straight Classic? Basscenter welcomes you back to the 36th Bassmaster Classic, the Super Bowl of bass fishing. We call it that because here in the United States, 25 million Americans go bass fishing. Today, only 25 bass anglers are out on the lake trying for that $500,000 first prize. And the launch just moments ago, as you see them speeding down the lakes here up to speeds of 70 miles an hour. It's like NASCAR out there. Luke Clausen heads into the final day as the leader, Byron.
And you know, some of these guys are actually doing, like you said, 70, 75 miles an hour, and they got 4 lakes. They got to get down to the 4th lake, so they got a chain of lakes to run down here at Lake Toho. A lot of these guys haven't even started casting yet. Some have already started fishing if they're fishing nearby. But look at this. Rick Morris, Ron Sheffield, some big moves yesterday, some big weights caught. A lot of guys, I mean, this leaderboard is turning upside down, and it's going to turn upside down again today.
And in the 9th place, Jeff Coble came through what we call the Weekend Series, the ESPN Outdoors Bassmaster Series, and he is in the top 10 right now. Kevin Van Dam, the defending Classic champion, I mean, he had to make a huge comeback yesterday because early, about midday, he was all the way back unofficially in 34th place. Remember I said the afternoons when he got hot on Friday?
You called it.
Boom, he comes in, he's in 12th place. He says now that he's going to go for it.
He has to go for it.
What does that mean? How do you go for it in professional bass fishing?
That's a great question, John. How do you go for it? And go for it, what that means is you're going to go out and you're going to give up everything that's worked so far if you haven't been catching big fish. Say you're out catching 2-pounders and 3-pounders, but you know you need 30. Okay, I'm going to abandon my pattern, the way I was catching my 2-pounders and 3-pounders. I'm going to give that up. I'm going to go for it. I'm going to swing for the fences. This is it. I'm just going to start going for the balls that'll knock it out of the park. And so you start looking for bigger fish or going to places where maybe you just caught 1 4-pounder, 5-pounder, 6-pounder. Now you're going to go focus on that type of area or areas like that, and you say, I'm just going to fish for what I consider big fish spots, big fish baits. That's how you go for it, John. You are going for the big bites, and you are not going to settle for anything less. The little ones are just getting in the way today.
Okay, so how does the weather, though, affect his chances of doing that and getting that big bag, catching 30 pounds today?
John, it plays right into it, and that's a beautiful thing. When you have weather like this, it can make going for it a much easier thing because these fish are shifting and moving. The weather has gotten weird on us. The weather's changed a lot, and these fish are all of a sudden, these big fish that were really dormant, maybe laying outside or something like that, they all of a sudden they're going to move up, and when they move up, the big fish move up, the angler gets lucky and goes for it. The angler that's going for it finds 20, 30, 40 pounds where there was nothing before. So the weather could make going for it work for somebody.
So today is going to be just incredible to watch.
Oh, I can't wait to see the weigh-in. This is going to be the greatest weigh-in.
All right, well, let's check in now. now with Mark Zona to see what he has. Mark?
That's great, Byron. You're talking about the weather. You're under a stage right now, bud. Give me a break.
Yeah,
seriously, I got to hang out with Kevin last night. He was talking about 30 pounds, that he really needed that. I think if he gets in that 27-pound range, he's got a shot for victory. Now, the one thing that's interesting, I sat with him this morning. I was watching him tie his baits on. You guys were talking about big baits. If you looked at what he was tying on, you would think he's in a shark tournament right now, Trey Reed, guaranteed.
You know, and decision-making is going to play a key for KVD and all these anglers.
Absolutely.
Decision-making is big in any bass tournament, but it's magnified about 500,000 times in the Classic. And here's the thing, Z, it's all about timing. It's not just moving to a new spot or picking up a different rod. It's doing it at precisely the moment when it will actually make a difference. It's kind of like an NFL quarterback reading coverage and deciding when to release the ball. You know, the thing is, we're gonna have to stick around a little while and see who throws the long touchdown and who gets picked off.
What we need to stick around for is getting some rain pants out here eventually, guys. Okay, that's what we need, Trey Reed. Give me a break.
John, Byron, back to you guys.
Oh, they've got tough duty.
If they go in the water waist deep, it'll all be relative. They got the rain suits on. Just get in the water and wade out there. I want to see them get wet today. What do you say?
Yeah. All right. So we sent Zona to the frozen tundra a couple weeks ago so he can get wet here in Florida. All right, we are live at the Bassmaster Classic and still ahead on Basscenter. The biggest surprises and disappointments in the 2006 Classic, from Rick Clunn's big catch to Gerald Swindle's big misses.
Ooh, swing and a miss.
Struck him out. Recapping the top stories of the 36 Bassmaster Classic, Luke Clausen, nearly 30 pounds on Friday, cooled off a bit Saturday. He still leads the Classic going into the final day. This angler was one of the favorites heading in, but after a disappointing day one, Florida native Terry Scroggins had the most weight on day two, back in the top 5 and in contention. And defending Classic champion Kevin Van Dam, an amazing jump, 34th to 12th. The Tiger Woods of bass fishing still in the hunt and charging on the final day of competition. Basscenter is live in Kissimmee, Florida. We're in the northern end of Lake Toho for the 36th Bassmaster Classic. The field started out with 51 anglers on Friday. We are now down to 25. The winner walks away with $500,000 this afternoon after the weigh-in. The guy with the most total weight right now, Luke Clausen, leading by a little over 4 pounds, and that's an advantage. We've got weather in the area, all kinds of different stories developing here today.
Oh, it's going crazy out there right now. Guys are making big moves yesterday. A lot's happening. So right now it's real exciting to see what's going on. The fishing could be incredible because the weather has changed. So a lot of guys that weren't catching them very good could find themselves whacking them today.
Well, Kevin Van Dam, a two-time Classic champion, the defending Classic champ, came in here going for a record. He's won 3 straight tournaments in a row. He's going for a record, an unprecedented 4th. But after day one, he was 15 pounds out of the lead. Now, the biggest deficit someone has made up after day one, Don Butler, 1972, came back from 12 pounds, 13 ounces.
You know your facts.
Hey,
I don't think Zona and I didn't even know that. I mean,
come on. Yeah,
I'm telling you, Trey, Zona, let's find out if they knew anything about that. What do you think?
Guys, what's going on?
You guys are chock full of facts this morning.
Hey, it's our jobs.
Weather is definitely the story today. And as I said before, Terry Scroggins knows the little areas of this lake he can tuck into. And the biggest thing he said last night at the weigh-in, he looked at me after he weighed in. I was not going to throw this out. And he said, Zona, I will win today, guaranteed.
Okay, Zona, but you know what Terry Scroggins is doing out there? He's throwing this bait. It's a soft plastic stick bait. Man, there is nothing to that. It is very
sassy.
light.
It's a sassy bait.
These guys are going to be throwing that bait in a 25 to 35 mile an hour wind. It's going to be incredibly difficult. Let me point out one more thing. Ron Shuffield, who's number 2 right now, he told me yesterday that he was going to win it, but he said he needed a south wind. You know where that 25 to 30 mile an hour wind's coming from? It ain't the south.
It's the north.
That's right.
But the biggest thing about that you're talking about right there, right now is the most critical time for these guys to catch them. The winds are supposed to get real bad in about 2 or 3 hours, so the time on the clock is right now for these guys. Back to you.
All right, well, thank you, Zona. And, man, we've got just a great day. Of course, we've got live coverage coming up here on ESPN2 at 8 o'clock Eastern. And then at 5:30 on ESPN, it's the weigh-in.
The weigh-in. It's going to be the weigh-in of all weigh-ins.
Hey, if you have not seen one of these Bassmaster Classic weigh-ins, you got to watch this one. If you're in the Orlando area, come on over to the Orange County Convention Center.
Or get near a TV around that time, because you got to watch this weigh-in. It's going to be the best ever.
Yeah, they've got a live band there. It's a huge stage, and man, these guys are going for that $500,000 prize. And here's how the rules break down a 3-day tournament. 8 hours of fishing per day. Start out with 51 anglers, 50 from the United States, 1 from South Africa.
And you know what? Sunday, we've cut to 25. Now, 26 guys are not fishing today. 25 get to go out there today and beat them up. And that's the guys that are going to be in the big show tonight, John.
And a 5 bass limit. After you've caught 5 bass, you can throw the little ones back and put a bigger one in. And then the overall heaviest weight walks away with a cool $500,000 first prize. Let's check out day 2 highlights. And Luke Clausen, remember, he set the single-day catch record, 29 pounds, 6 ounces on Friday, Saturday. He went back to the same places, and look at this, third cast of the day, 6-pounder.
Oh, and how excited is this guy? Now, check this out. You're leading the Bassmaster Classic. You go to your first spot, you make your third cast. This is what dreams are made of for this kid, the youngest kid in the Classic, to go, oh, I think I'll catch my first bass, and this is what it's going to look like. Oh, Luke was pumped to win.
I wasn't really sure what to expect today. I could have seen myself catching 30 pounds today because I went through one area yesterday and caught a few big ones really quick. I went through about 30 yards of a 200-yard section and caught a few big ones really quick. And in practice, I'd gotten bit all down that thing. And I thought the potential was there to catch another 30 pounds today. It didn't turn out that way at all.
Kevin Van Dam at one point on Saturday, unofficially, he dropped all the way back to 34th. Byron, he caught fire, moved up to 12.
Oh, and you know what? The other guys don't want to see this. There's 24 guys fishing today that do not want to see this guy fishing also. You don't want to be against this guy. When he makes a move like that and goes all the way up to 12th, this is big time. And this is the kind of fish that got it done. Just like you said, John, it was a late bite, and this guy is swinging for the fences. Watch out.
I've got to go for it. You know, I mean, there's a huge difference between first place and second place. And I'm looking at that $500,000 payday.
Preston Clark came into this tournament with a strategy to go sight fishing. That's fishing for bass in shallow water that you can see. The wind kicked up and made it a little bit tougher on Saturday.
You know, and he did sight fish yesterday. Now he's got his problems today because the wind has berated this place. Now you got all kinds of issues, rain and wind. It's going to be tough for Preston to see anything out there. It'll look like a dark water mirror.
And how about Edwin Evers? He came into day 2 third place, but it was also tough going for him.
Oh, this has got to hurt. You're in the Classic, and oh, there goes one. No, not another, but this one's on. Not yet, but I've already seen the tape. I know he loses it. Oh, there we go. You know, Edwin is great. Oklahoma Sooner, this guy is a machine on the tour. We call this guy E squared. This is guy E squared, Edwin Evers.
Yeah.
And he is consummate fisherman. And right there, throwing a worm out there, and watch out.
Ish Monroe had a great day on Friday, 26 pounds, but an awful time on day 2, only 7 pounds, barely made the cut to 25, but he is fishing today. And then there's Kevin Wirth.
Oh, talk about things that are going to haunt you. No, it's broke the line. Snapola, adios. Goodbye.
He's 9 pounds out of the lead in 6th place.
But check this out. He's going to put this one in the boat. Oh, and this guy is another guy that we fish against him every year. A lot of guys are rooting for Kevin. He is a sentimental favorite to win this tournament because so many guys just like him as being one of the consummate nice guys on the tour. Always a good buy. And look at the fish. I'm so happy for him.
He's also a world champion roller skater, believe it or not. And Rick Clunn, the 4-time Classic champion, out there with the spinnerbait on day 2. He was 5th after day 1, but he kind of dropped in the standings to 18th after day 2.
John, nobody fishes a spinnerbait better than this man right here, and there are guys scared of this guy today because he can make it happen any day.
This lake, you can pull miracles, but that's what it would take for me to come back. You'd have to have a monster bag.
Ron Sheffield, one of only 2 anglers to catch more than 20 pounds on day number 2. He later said flat out that he is going to win because he says he knows where the big fish are hiding out today. But here's the guy that everybody needs to watch out for. Terry Scroggins, the heavy favorite coming in because he's a Florida guy. He really knows Lake Toho. He caught 28 pounds, 6 ounces on Saturday.
I really struggled yesterday. I flipped a lot of heavy cover. Today, I run around the whole lake just like I did yesterday. I hit about 25 spots or so, but I was casting more. I was fishing more isolated cover versus the thick matted cover. And about my 10th or 12th spot, I ran into this area. I caught a 3-pounder and a 5-pounder, and I slowed down. Then I caught a 7-pounder, another 5-pounder, and a 9.5. And I kind of left it alone after a couple of hours, and I really think there's a big bag there for tomorrow.
Yeah, and I'm telling you what, Byron, they've been out on the water a little over a half an hour, and already you got some guys pulling some big ones into the boat. Look down in the 8th position, Mark Tucker from St. Louis, Missouri, a professional bodybuilder, former professional bodybuilder. He hauled in a hog, 7-pounder.
And I'll bet you it was no big deal for him because he works out as much as he does. A 7-pounder is a very lightweight for this guy. But check this out, Mark Tucker caught a giant on the first day as well. So this guy is already making big moves, and the big fish today might be snapping, so the weigh-in could tell a whole different story.
Oh, it just could be. And George Cochran in the 10th position right there. Kevin Van Dam has dropped down to 13th. Now, these are the guys that we expected, more or less. A good shot at making the cut. And Marty Stone, 26th place, because you had 3 guys tied at 23rd, 4th, and 5th.
Stunning disappointments here. Just things we did not expect to see, and predictions that absolutely just blew up in our faces.
And then Mike Iaconelli, whose Friday weight was disqualified, so he started out with 0, 8 pounds, 13 ounces on Saturday. Now, Byron, if you would have gone and added in, had he not been disqualified, had he not had 2 dead fish, he would have had a little over 12 pounds. He would have had about 21 pounds, 22 pounds. That would not have made the cut.
So even without the disqualification,
he wouldn't be fishing today.
Just wasn't flat on him.
No, it just wasn't. You sometimes wonder, though, after the disqualification, if he, his heart was in it. Yeah.
You change your game plan because all of a sudden you've been disqualified. You got to do something different. So it's hard to say what could have happened.
Yeah. So those are a look at some of the guys that we expected to be fishing out there today. There's also some, guys who, made it that we didn't expect.
Oh, absolutely. There's some guys out there that just surprised the heck out of us, and guys that we did, said, how are these guys going to finish? Don't much about them. Preston Clark. Look at the guy right now that's out there doing so well. Preston is a guy that a lot of guys said, this guy is somebody that not a lot of guys knew about. Sure, he was from Florida, but he was in the shadow of Terry Scroggins. And that's the thing. His fishing partner, he's like, God, what happened? All of a sudden, he's catching all the fish, and Terry has to catch up. And then there's the disappointment.
Yep.
Oh, my big disappointment absolutely has to be, you know who it is.
I do.
Do you?
Do I?
I don't know.
I think I had him picked in the pundit picks, David Walker. Yeah.
But I want to see if you remember the show. When I picked him as my top 5, I thought I was going to get some real heat for this one because I picked David Walker as one of my top 5, and I know that John's going to give me a lot of heat about the fact that he just did not make it work.
You're the one who told me to pick him, but I looked at his record. He did pretty well here in Florida in the past. That's why I picked him. But specifically, why you expect him to be in the hunt?
David Walker is a machine in Florida. This guy knows how to fish. This time of year, I have fished against David Walker, and the guy knows how to catch him in Florida this time of year. He's just a guy that likes to go out and pitch a bait into the tulies and the mats and the grass, throw a bait into the grass, and actually figure out how to catch them. He knows the right type of grass to fish in Florida, and in Florida, it's all about fishing different types of vegetation, John.
Yeah, so a disappointment for David Walker.
I thought you were going to just give me that because you were going to beat me up for David Walker. I'm so disappointed.
It's okay, bud. We are live at the 36th Bassmaster Classic, and after the break here on Bass Center, why patience pays off in bass fishing. We'll tell you what could be the winning strategy and the winning lure in this year's Bassmaster Classic, the Super Bowl of bass fishing. And look at those boats right out there and some of that grass and vegetation you were talking about, trying to find those monster bass. Basscenter welcomes you back to live coverage of this year's 36th Bassmaster Classic, the Super Bowl of bass fishing. You're looking at the lock on the south end of Lake Toho here in Kissimmee, Florida. Kind of a boat elevator.
It's a water elevator. These guys are just trying to go from one lake, which is higher, to a lake that's lower, and you have to go through these lock systems to do that.
And it takes some time, but we've seen down in Kissimmee on the far end, about 30 miles or so away from here, there's some big fish down there, so it could be well worth it to take the time to go
take the water elevator down to the lower lake.
The water elevator, the water escalator, whatever. Here's where we stand right now. Luke Clausen, still the leader. Mark Tucker, the first big catch of the day, a 7-pounder about 10 minutes ago, so he has moved into the top 10. He is in the 8th position. Of course, we have reporters all over the place, and Mark Zona, we know he's a great angler in his own right, and we're going to check in with him now to see if the key baits, something that people have been using so far, that will they work today, won't they work today? I'm sure Zona has the answer for us. Mark?
Well, thanks a bunch, John. One of the things earlier in the week that we thought might play a factor in this tournament was a little top water buzzing frog right there. And you know what? It definitely has. Second place guy right now, Ron Shuffield, has thrown a bait just like this the entire tournament made by Gambler. We did go out on the water and fish a little bit. Check it out.
One of the techniques that's definitely going to be used in this tournament is power fishing. What is power fishing? Putting that trolling motor down and covering as much water as you can. Throwing out, reeling in, and just covering water. One of the lures that will be used in this is that little dude right there, the horny toad. To me, that could be the dark horse in this event. All you're going to do with this little bait is come right through his nose, twist the hook around, and make him completely weedless. Just skin hook that top. Now, you're going to be throwing that bait right into this thick grass, right over the top. Throw it out and reel it in, right over the surface. But the biggest key to this is heavy action rods. Real stiff rods, bait cast reel, 30-pound line. Reason why, when you're throwing it up in there and an 8-pounder blows up on it, bang, you're going to bring them in, okay? This tournament could come down to this little lure by the end of the weekend.
Now, guys, you can definitely tell that Ron Shuffield has had a lot more luck than I did with that lure, and I'm going to try to sneak out and try it again. Back to you.
Okay, now, you want to just clear something. Zone has hit power fishing. He means that you're out there moving around the water, lots of cast, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. When you're power fishing, you just want to go out there and just beat the water. He nailed it perfectly. It's just going out there. It's not fishing slow and methodical, but the trick is there's another alternative to that, and that's fishing slow and methodical, really just slowing it down. We call it dead sticking, and that's another thing that plays into it. Now, what is dead sticking? It's when you throw your bait out there and you let it sit there for what seems like eternity. Some guys will go and throw a bait into a pocket, a little hole, throw a bait out there, 10, 20, 30 seconds, letting the bait sit there. It is the slowest way to fish, and it's another great way to fish in the spring when the fish are getting lethargic like they might be because it's getting cold and windy out there right now, John.
Yeah, that reminds me of a good analogy when you're a kid. Pop the bobber on and just sit it out there and wait.
Patience is a virtue.
Patience is a virtue. All right. You know, if you have watched some of the Bassmaster Classic coverage on television, perhaps you've stopped to wonder how it's done. Well, when we come back, a behind-the-scenes look at putting bass fishing on live television.
Get ready, go. Here we go. Here we go. All the way. Gotta be rough and tough. Born every day. We run to the sun. No sweat. Not yet. Down in a mess all on my knees.
The 82nd Airborne All-American Chorus performing at the Bassmaster Classic weigh-in last night. The 24 members sings without instruments. Their visit was made possible by the fine folks at Toyota. You know, bass fishing on television just a few years ago, it really would have seemed impossible. Pro fishing isn't like stick and ball sports. I mean, the athletes in this sport, they're spread out over 50 to 100 square miles of water. Now, there's an awful lot that goes on behind the scenes that makes the event and the TV coverage possible. Basscenter field producer Tony Martinez takes a look.
Yeah, come on. Yes.
It is the essence of sport, the highlight. Without compelling moments like these, Lake Toho is just another pretty lake. But covering this 107 square mile playing field is a challenge. From the southernmost location on Lake Kissimmee, we thought we'd show you how a fish gets on TV at the Classic.
Stand by, teams change to pontoon. It's been a process of coordination between people at the water, people at the weigh-in, people at the convention center.
Davey, hi, go get it done. Davey started up here in Kissimmee. You see he popped all the way down here and locked through and spent all of his day fishing down here, the north part and all the way down to the south part, which is about 40 miles away from where he put in.
Got a crawl going wall.
Go.
I'm a shuttle driver. I run the films from the camera crews, ESPN camera crews, into pickup point.
Thank you, sir.
They're picked up by a helicopter.
The helicopter comes in here to our headquarters.
This tape came from the lower end of the lake, from Kissimmee and Cypress.
Baby height. Let's hike the first one. Time is this height.
Also behind the scenes momentarily is the angler during the transition from the water to the weigh-in.
I'm going backstage first. You're on, guys. Dissolve to 3.
5 hours after their journey began, Davey Height and his fish are cheered.
I'm talking about South Carolina's Davey Heights. Give me big numbers. How about 7 pounds and 12 ounces and back to the top 12 right there?
You know, Keith, there's some people that made some major moves today. Thanks.
Although Man and Beast share the limelight, an army backstage is responsible for getting the highlight from ship to shore and ultimately to your living room.
What'd you do?
Oh, man. Hey, our live classic coverage kicks off in just about 5 minutes here on ESPN2, 8 o'clock Eastern. And then the final weigh-in to find out who wins the $500,000 first prize. Our coverage kicks off at ESPN at 5:30 Eastern. You know, bass fishing is not a young man's game, but the youngest man in this year's field has led the tournament for the first 2 days. Can Luke Clausen hold on to win? We will have all of our picks when we come back here on Basscenter, live from the 36th Bassmaster Classic.
Basscenter is brought to you by Triton Boats. We take America fishing. Outside the Tackle Box is brought to you by Plano and the all-new Flipsider Tackle Systems. Plano invites you to flip it, find it, fish it.
Welcome back to Basscenter live, Lake Toho, Kissimmee, Florida. Final day of the 36th Bassmaster Classic. Luke Clausen headed in the leader. He still hasn't caught a fish, Byron.
Oh, that could be tough for that guy because there's a lot of guys that are going to catch some fish pretty quickly here. And like we said, Mark Tucker has already caught a 7-pounder since we went on the air. So there's a lot that's going to happen between now and the weigh-in. God, it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, the weather's pretty good right now, but predicted to have winds out of the north about 20 to 30 miles an hour. Time now to put it all on the line.
Oh.
Byron Velvick, who is your pick? Who's going to win this thing?
We're going with picks. I'm going to go with Terry Scroggins right off the bat. And the reason I'm going with Scroggins because he's versatile. The weather has taken a nosedive. The forecast is for really bad weather. He lives here. He has the potential to know how to acclimate himself to any condition. So Terry Scroggins to win it because of what we're facing today.
That sounds good to me. Now let's check in with Mark Zona to find out who he thinks is going to win. Mark?
John and Byron, I've decided to go with Rick Morris. 2 reasons why. Rick said yesterday, if it is windy, he will catch him. Last reason why, the guy has got great hair. He looks just like Byron. He's got kind of a Byron, Patrick Swayze, and Roadhouse look. I don't know. Guys, man, I'll throw it out there.
I'm going with Kevin Worth. He will clearly be the winner of this tournament. You know, I've talked to Kevin every day. He's so relaxed and confident. Another thing, he's been close before in the Classic, and I think this is the time he finally closes the deal.
Hey, I'm telling you, Luke Clausen's going to become the 7th angler to lead from wire to wire and win the Classic. He's won one of these big $500,000 tournaments in another series, and he will not fold under the pressure of the final day.
You're going with Luke.
I'm going with the obvious.
With the young guy. He's got a 4-pound lead, John. Come on.
That's true. Pretty obvious. I'm not hanging it out there. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our coverage. Coming up next here on ESPN2, live coverage of the 36th Bassmaster Classic. So long, everybody.